This video is designed to help you take a standard form equation with an x and y variable and convert it to slope-intercept form so you can graph a line in slope-intercept form. So your goal for the day is to get y by itself, solve for the y variable, so the y and the x are on the opposite sides, so you can identify the slope and the y-intercept. Now, as a reminder, when you have something in y equals mx plus b form, you are trying to identify the slope and the y-intercept. The number that's attached to the x, touching the x, being multiplied into the x, however you want to say it. Remember, that is your slope. And the number that follows the x variable, it's separated by an addition or subtraction variable, or a addition or subtraction operation. That is your y-intercept, or where the line that you are graphing crosses the y-axis. So our goal is to get y by itself and to also identify the slope, identify the y-intercept. Now, key thing to remember when it comes to solving for a variable, you cannot add or subtract unlike terms. You cannot do that. So make sure you remember that if you are adding or subtracting variables, you cannot add or subtract unlike terms. When we talk about you can't combine like terms, what I mean is if you have a 2x, you can't add 2x to a number. You can't add a variable of x to a variable of y. And the same thing goes for addition and subtraction. So just remember, you cannot combine like terms. So if you are eliminating or using inverse operations to get rid of or to solve for a variable, make sure you do not add or subtract by unlike terms. But you can multiply and divide, which you will see that today. So let's go and just go on to the first example that we have, which is 3x plus y. And I'm going to write the problems to the right side because I am going to be solving for them. So we have 3x plus y equals 2. Our goal is to get the variable y by itself. Now, I highlighted the operation that's in front of the y to let you know that that is a positive y. So the way I have always solved these is that I will separate my sides. Apologize for that. I will separate my sides because I want to solve for that variable. So I need to get rid of the 3x. Well, the only way to completely get rid of something is to completely take it away. So the way you get rid of a positive 3x is I want to subtract 3x from both sides, which will cancel out the 3x on the left. That will bring down my positive y. Go ahead and bring down my equal sign. Now, I cannot take away 3x from 2 because you cannot add or subtract unlike terms. So I will put my variable of x first because, again, I want everything into y equals mx plus b form. So it would be y equals negative 3x plus 2. Once I get y by itself, I can now identify my slope. I can now identify my y-intercept, and my slope is negative 3, but I want that as a fraction, so it'll be negative 3 over 1. And then I also have my y-intercept of 2. Remember, y-intercept is marked on your y-axis. So if it is a positive 2, at positive 2, I will put my y-intercept. And then I will use my slope of negative 3 over 1, which I will go with down 3 and right 1 because it is negative. So I will use that slope to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and right 1. And I have my next point on my graph. And again, I can put a third point, down 3, right 1. And you can see where those points go. And once you have your points, you can just then connect your points with a line. Put arrows to show that it goes on forever. So when you so that line that is graphed is the line for 3x plus y equals 2. So again, our goal was to get the y variable by itself so we can identify the slope, identify the y-intercept. Let's go to the next example. We have 6x plus 5y equals 10. So again, we want to solve for y, but this time we have a variable or a coefficient beside the y variable, and a coefficient is just a number that's in front of a variable. So we have 6x plus 5y equals 10. We want to solve for our y, so I'm going to separate my sides. And I need to get rid of that 6x. The way you get rid of that 6x, it's positive, so I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. And once again, you cannot add or subtract unlike terms. Go ahead and bring down this 5y to the next step. So we always want our variable x first, so we'll put negative 6x, and since that is a positive 10, I'll make it plus 10. But we're not finished. Our variable of y is not by itself. It still has a 5 beside it. So again, we will separate our sides, but this time we need to get rid of the 5 that is touching the y. So if you remember, if a number and a variable are touching, that is the same as multiplication, and you undo multiplication with division. The good thing with solving for y now is you may not be able to add or subtract unlike terms, but you can multiply and divide unlike terms. So since we are dividing by 5 on the left, we are going to divide by 5 into everything on the right. Again, that happens because you can multiply and divide unlike terms. Now, negative 6 over 5 or negative 6 divided by 5 or negative 6x divided by 5 does not simplify, and you want to keep it as a mixed number. You don't want an improper fraction. So, you want to keep it as an improper fraction. You don't want to make it a mixed number. So that will stay negative 6 over 5x. And you have positive 10 divided by 5, which is going to be a positive 2. So you'll put plus 2. So in this case, we now have y equals negative 6 over 5x plus 2, where our slope is going to be negative. And I'll slide that down just a little bit more. Our slope is going to be negative 6 over 5. Our y-intercept is positive 2. So once again, on the y-axis at positive 2, that's where our starting point is going to be. Our slope is negative 6 over 5, so it tells us to go down 6, right 5. So we're going to go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see where our second point is. And from there, we can connect those 2 points. Put an arrow at both ends, and we now have the line that goes with the standard form equation of 6x plus 5y equals 10. Last example I want to go over is x minus y equals 4. These can be confusing to people because they realize they think that there's no variables there, there's no coefficient, there is no number with the variable, so it really throws people off. So let's see how we can do this. Again, we're solving for y. We want to keep that operation with it. That lets us know that it's negative. And the thing I tell my students is if you have a variable, you know that there is a coefficient in front of it. You know that there is a number in front of it. So if you have a variable of x, put a 1 there. You have a variable of y, put a 1 in front of it. So you know it's 1x minus 1y. So that way when you go to solve, you know that there is a number there, and it will also help when you find your slope. So we do want to separate our sides. We do still want to solve for y, but we need to get rid of that 1x that's on the left, that positive 1x. So I'm going to subtract 1x from both sides. So that will bring down my negative 1y equals, remember we want the x first, negative 1x plus 4. But we're not finished because y may be sort of by itself, but it's negative. We need for it to be positive. So I'm going to separate my sides. Now I need to get rid of the negative 1 that's touching y. So in this step, we are going to divide by negative 1 all to everything, because you can, once again, multiply and divide by unlike terms, giving us y equals negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. X positive 4 divided by negative 1 is negative 4, which will now give us our slope of positive 1 will be 1 over 1, because we need the rise and the run, with a starting point or a y-intercept of negative 4. Meaning the negative 4 on the y-axis is our starting point. Our slope tells us to go up 1, right 1. So that's where our next point will go. And if you can see, we can continue to follow that slope up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1. And you can see how those points would fall on that line. But remember, you only need 2 points to draw a graph. The other points are just there to help you justify that you know either line is going in the right direction. So we'll go ahead and draw our line. And you can see now the positive line that starts at negative 4 going up at 1 over 1 for the x minus y equals negative 4. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you understand. And if you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask. Have a good day.